My granddaughter, Lily, leaned close, her voice barely above a whisper, and in that moment my whole world collapsed. "Grandma," she said, "I heard Mom and Dad talking. They're putting you in a home today and they're taking all your money." I forced a smile, patting her soft 8-year-old head, while inside me anger roared like a wildfire. Jacob and Amanda had no clue what they had just unleashed. If you're listening, make sure to follow along and tell me where you're from. But let me rewind a little so you understand how I ended up babysitting for two of the most selfish people you'll ever meet. About a year and a half ago, my husband, Robert, died suddenly of a heart attack. That's when Jacob and Amanda swooped in, pretending to be full of concern, tears streaming like they cared. "Mom, you can't live alone anymore," Jacob insisted. "Come stay with us. We'll take care of you." What they really meant was, "Come be our built-in nanny and personal ATM." But Lily's innocent confession changed the game. While she sat at the kitchen table coloring, I quietly dialed my lawyer, Michael Turner. We'd gone to high school together and he had handled Robert's will. "Michael, this is Margaret Reynolds. I need an emergency appointment today. Can you meet me at 2? "Everything okay, Maggie?" he asked. I took a breath. "Let's just say it's time for some chickens to come home to roost." Next I called the bank. "This is Margaret Reynolds, account number 47789. I need to discuss an immediate transfer." The representative confirmed what I already suspected. Between Robert's life insurance and our savings, I had far more money than Jacob and Amanda ever imagined. I hung up, looking at Lily still coloring so sweetly. She had no idea she had just saved her grandma from being robbed blind. I ruffled her hair and whispered, "Sweetheart, how would you like to help Grandma with a very special project?" She looked up with those wide blue eyes. "What kind of project?" she asked. "The kind where people learn not to count their chickens before they hatch," I told her. At exactly 1:30, I told Lily we were going for a walk. I grabbed my purse, the one with every important document inside, the one I had carried everywhere since Robert passed. Widow's intuition, I guess. Something inside me always knew this day would come. We walked down to the corner coffee shop where Michael was waiting. His face was serious as I explained everything. "They think I'm just some helpless old woman they can throw away," I said. "But they're about to find out otherwise." Michael nodded firmly. "What do you want me to do?" "Everything," I answered. "New will, revoke power of attorney, transfer accounts. The whole package. And Michael, I want it done before they come back from their errands." As we headed to his office, Lily skipped along beside me, humming a tune, blissfully unaware she was about to witness the greatest takedown in Reynolds family history. Sitting in Michael's office while she played with toys in the waiting area, I couldn't help but think about how blind I had been. The signs were there from the start, but grief makes you stupid. After Robert's funeral, when Jacob suggested I sell my house and move in with them, I thought it came from love. "Mom, the market's hot right now. You could get top dollar and we'd love to have you close," he told me. What he didn't say was that my Social Security check would help cover their mortgage, and free childcare would save them nearly $800 a month. So I sold my beautiful 3-bedroom home, the one Robert and I had shared for 32 years, and handed over the proceeds to help with their debts. $600,000 gone. I should have recognized it then, I told Michael as he prepared the paperwork. The way Amanda's eyes lit up when she heard the sale price. The sudden friendliness after years of barely tolerating me. These past 18 months had been nothing but a masterclass in manipulation. Every time I even hinted at getting my own place, Jacob would pile on the guilt. "Mom, Lily needs you. You're so good with her. And at your age, wouldn't you rather be surrounded by family?" At my age? I was 67, not 97. I could still drive, cook, think for myself. And, as it turned out, plan revenge better than they could plan their pathetic little scheme. Amanda was quieter about it, but no less manipulative. "Oh, Margaret, your experience with kids is priceless. Lily's doing so well in school, and it's all thanks to you helping with her homework." Translation: keep being our free labor while we sneak out 3 nights a week. The worst part wasn't the chores. It was how they'd slowly cut me off from everyone who cared about me. "You're always so busy with Lily. We figured you wouldn't want to go to book club anymore. The church ladies called, but we told them you weren't up for visitors." Bit by bit, they isolated me from my whole support system. But in all their scheming, they made one big mistake. They underestimated me. Michael slid the stack of papers across his desk. "This revokes their power of attorney and makes me your agent. This one transfers your accounts to a bank they know nothing about. And this," he smiled, "is your brand new will." I signed with a flourish. But what about the house money I gave them? I asked. Michael leaned back. That's where it gets interesting. Since there's no formal loan agreement, we can argue it was a gift tied to your permanent residence there. If they break that condition, they owe it all back. Every last penny plus interest. I glanced at my watch. 2:45. They'd be back by 4, expecting to find their docile old mother packed and ready for Shady Pines nursing home. Instead, they'd walk into a house ruled by a woman who had just taken her power back. Lily burst into the office. Grandma, are we done with all this boring grown-up stuff? Almost, sweetheart. Just one more stop, I told her. Our final stop was First National Bank, where I'd done business for over 40 years. Lily sat happily in the kids' corner with a lollipop while I sat across from Janet, the branch manager. Mrs. Reynolds, I have to say this is highly unusual. You want to transfer everything today? Checking, savings, CDs. All of it to the new account at Commerce Bank across town? Her fingers flew over the keyboard. That's a very large amount. Are you certain? I thought back to Jacob's face that morning, how he couldn't meet my eyes when he said they were running errands. How Amanda had hugged me tighter than usual like she was saying goodbye. How they had asked me to stay with Lily instead of tagging along, breaking their routine. My voice was steady. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. The transfer took about an hour. $637,412. Robert's life insurance. Our retirement savings. The proceeds from the house. Every penny I had saved over 4 decades of careful living. All the money they assumed would be theirs the second they declared me incompetent and seized control. Janet looked up carefully. Mrs. Reynolds, if you don't mind me asking, why the sudden urgency? I gave her my sweetest smile. Let's just say, some people are about to learn you don't count your chickens before they hatch. By 3:30 Lily and I were back home. I sent her to her room to play while I tied on an apron and got busy in the kitchen making their favorite dinner. Pot roast with mashed potatoes. If this was going to be my last meal in that house, I wanted it to be unforgettable. As I peeled potatoes, I thought about the conversation they were probably having earlier that morning. The appointment at Shady Pines is at 5, Jacob would have said. We'll tell her after dinner. By tomorrow she'll be settled in her new place and we can get the power of attorney paperwork started. They had probably already mapped out exactly how they'd spend my money. Amanda had been eyeing a shiny new SUV for months, and Jacob had dropped hints about wanting to remodel the kitchen. They'd even tossed around the idea of a European vacation, something they could finally afford thanks to me. By 3:45 I heard their car crunching up the driveway. I smoothed my apron, glanced at my reflection in the kitchen window, and saw exactly what I wanted. A harmless grandmother making dinner for her beloved family. Perfect camouflage. The front door opened and their voices carried inside, too cheerful, too loud. Overcompensating. Guilt leaking through. Mom, we're home. Jacob called. Something smells amazing. Just your favorite, I answered lightly. Lily's in her room. How were your errands? There was a brief pause. Fine, Amanda said a little too quickly. Just running around town. I smiled to myself. In less than an hour, they'd realized that while they were busy scheming, I'd been running circles around them. Dinner turned into a performance. My very best act of passive-aggressive theater. I served their plates with extra care, asked about their day as if I truly cared, and even complimented Amanda on her new haircut. They squirmed in their seats like guilty kids caught stealing cookies, sneaking nervous glances at each other whenever they thought I wasn't looking. This roast is incredible, Mom, Jacob said, though I noticed he barely touched it. You really outdid yourself. Well, I wanted tonight to feel special, I said with a warm smile. You never know when things might change. Amanda nearly choked on her mashed potatoes. Change? What do you mean? Oh, just life in general, dear. Nothing stays the same forever, does it? They managed to choke down the rest of the meal, though the tension at that table was thick enough to slice with a knife. Sweet Lily chattered on about school, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. At 7 sharp, Jacob cleared his throat. Mom, could we talk to you in the living room? Lily, honey, go play in your room for a while. Here it comes, I thought. The moment they'd been preparing for all day. We settled in. They perched stiffly on the couch while I eased back into my favorite chair by the window. Jacob fidgeted with his hands, Amanda's eyes locked on the coffee table. Finally, Jacob spoke. Amanda and I have been talking and we think it might be time for you to consider other living arrangements. I tilted my head, the picture of innocent confusion. Other arrangements? You mean like me getting my own apartment? Not exactly, Amanda jumped in, her voice sweet but fake. We were thinking something more like assisted living. A place with people your own age, fun activities, medical staff available if needed. You mean a nursing home? I asked calmly. It's not a nursing home, Jacob blurted quickly. It's a beautiful community. We visited today. Shady Pines. They've got wonderful programs, amazing facilities. And, well, you've already made arrangements, haven't you? They exchanged another guilty glance. We just thought we'd explore options, Jacob muttered. I leaned back in my chair, letting silence stretch until it hurt. They were expecting tears, protests, maybe even begging. Dad, I smiled. Well, that's interesting timing. Amanda stiffened. What do you mean? I mean, I spent today exploring options too. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to Michael's number. Michael, it's Margaret. Could you come over now? I think it's time. Jacob's face drained of color. Mom, what are you doing? Taking care of business, sweetheart, I said smoothly. Just like you always told me to. I rose slowly, smoothing the skirt of my dress. Michael Turner will be here in 10 minutes to explain some changes I made today. You might want to sit down. Amanda's hand shot out, gripping Jacob's arm. What is she talking about? Amanda whispered. Right on schedule, the doorbell rang 10 minutes later. I opened it to see Michael standing there, briefcase in hand, his expression grim. Good evening, Margaret. Jacob, Amanda, he said. Michael, I greeted him cheerfully. Why don't you explain to my dear son and daughter-in-law what we accomplished today? Michael settled into the armchair across from them, and for a moment the room felt like a courtroom. Jacob and Amanda sat rigid, pale, like defendants waiting for a guilty verdict. Thankfully, Lily had already fallen asleep upstairs, sparing her from the explosion that was about to hit. Where should I begin? Michael asked, opening his briefcase. The power of attorney seems like a good place, I suggested sweetly. Michael nodded. As of today, Jacob and Amanda Reynolds no longer have any legal authority over Margaret Reynolds' affairs. The power of attorney they were planning to use has been formally revoked. Jacob shot to his feet. Planning to use? We weren't planning anything. Sit down, son, I said quietly. We both know that's a lie. Amanda's face had gone as white as fresh snow. Margaret, I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because 8-year-olds hear more than you think. I locked eyes with her. Lily told me about your conversation this morning. About putting me in a home and taking my money. The silence that followed was suffocating. Jacob slowly dropped back onto the couch, his face twisted with panic. Amanda's mouth opened and closed uselessly, like a fish pulled from water. Michael, I continued smoothly, would you mind explaining the financial arrangements? Of course, he said. Mrs. Reynolds has transferred all her assets to new accounts at another bank. This includes roughly $637,000. Her life savings, insurance proceeds, and the money from selling her home. You can't do this. Amanda finally found her voice. That money, you gave us that money. Actually, Michael said calmly, I reviewed the situation. There was no formal loan agreement. The funds were provided under the understanding that Margaret would live here permanently. If that arrangement is broken, she has every right to request repayment. With interest, I added, savoring the words. Jacob dragged his hands down his face. Mom, please. Let's talk about this reasonably. You don't understand what you're doing. Oh, but I do, I said, standing, feeling stronger than I had in years. I understand that you plan to have me declared incompetent so you could seize control of my finances. I understand you've been isolating me from friends and treating me like free labor. And I understand you've been counting money that was never yours to begin with. We were trying to protect you. Jacob's voice cracked. You're 67 years old. Living alone isn't safe. I'm not living alone, I shot back. I'm living with people who see me as nothing but a burden and a bank account. There's a difference. Amanda leaned forward, desperation written all over her face. Margaret, we can fix this. Maybe we went about it wrong, but we do care about you. I laughed, a sharp, joyless sound. You care about my social security check. You care about free childcare. You care about my money. But me. You've never cared about me. Michael cleared his throat. There's one more matter we need to cover. My smile turned sharp. Ah yes. The best part. Michael pulled another folder from his case. Margaret has also updated her will. The previous version left her entire estate to Jacob, with provisions for Lily's education. The new version makes some significant changes. Jacob's face drained from pale to sickly green. What kind of changes? This time I wanted the satisfaction myself. I'll deliver this one personally. The kind where Lily gets everything, I said evenly. Held in trust until she turns 25. You and Amanda? You get nothing. Not a single penny. Amanda let out a strangled sound somewhere between a gasp and a wail. You can't do this to us. We have a mortgage, car payments, Lily's future to think about. You should have thought about that before you tried to rob me blind, I snapped. I was done pretending. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Shady Pines costs $4,000 a month. You had the whole plan worked out, didn't you? Put me away, sell off my belongings, take control of my money and pocket the rest. Jacob tried one last desperate angle. Mom, I'm your son, your only child. Dad would want you to take care of me. That was his mistake, bringing Robert into this. My voice dropped to a whisper sharp enough to cut glass. Your father worked 2 jobs for 30 years so we could save every penny for retirement. He sacrificed so we could build something worth leaving behind. And you were planning to steal it while I'm still alive. I walked to the mantel, picked up Robert's photo and stared at his kind, steady face. You know what your father would say if he could see you now? He'd say, I should have done this sooner. I set the picture down and turned back to them. Michael, there's one more document, isn't there? Michael nodded grimly. The eviction notice. Margaret has decided she no longer feels safe living here. As tenants without a lease, you have 30 days to find new arrangements. Eviction notice? Jacob's voice cracked. This is our house. I said, pulling a folder from my purse. That's where it gets interesting. Remember that $600,000 I gave you? I've got all the bank records. The transfer came from my account to yours, and it paid off your mortgage and your credit cards. No loan papers were signed, true, but there are emails where you promised I'd always have a home here. Amanda's face crumpled as the truth hit. You want the money back? Every single penny, I confirmed. Plus 18 months of rent you should have been paying me. The money you saved on childcare. And compensation for emotional distress. By my count, that comes to about $700,000. Jacob's voice was barely a whisper. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'd better get creative, I said, shrugging. Sell the house. Cash out your retirement accounts. Pick up extra jobs. Or file for bankruptcy. I don't care. But you won't be doing it on my dime anymore. Michael snapped his briefcase shut and stood. I'll leave you to process this. Margaret, your new apartment is ready whenever you'd like to move in. As he headed for the door, Amanda called after me, her voice breaking. What about Lily? You can't just abandon your granddaughter. I paused at the bottom of the stairs, resting my hand on the banister. I'm not abandoning Lily. I'm teaching her a lesson. What happens when people try to cheat the ones who love them? She'll understand someday. Then I climbed the stairs to pack my things, leaving Jacob and Amanda to sift through the ruins of their perfect little plan. Tomorrow I'd begin my new life. Tonight I would sleep better than I had in months. Behind me I heard Amanda start to cry. 3 weeks later, I sat with a cup of coffee in my beautiful new apartment overlooking Riverside Park, watching joggers and dog walkers enjoy the morning sun. The furnished 2-bedroom cost me $1,800 a month, a fraction of what I'd been pouring into Jacob and Amanda's household. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt like mine again. My phone buzzed again. Jacob's name flashed across the screen, the 14th call from him this week. Like the 13 before it, I let it go straight to voicemail. Once it stopped ringing, I tapped play on his latest message. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Lily's asking where you went and Amanda's having panic attacks. We can work this out if you'll just be reasonable. Reasonable? That was rich, coming from someone who had plotted to have me committed. I hit delete without hesitation and dialed Michael instead. How's our lawsuit coming? I asked. Slowly, he admitted. They've hired Martin Burke from Burke & Associates. He's actually pretty good. He's arguing that the money you gave them was a gift, not a loan, and that you can't retroactively demand repayment. And what did you tell him? I pressed. That we have 18 months of documented proof showing they treated you as a tenant, not family, he said firmly. Bank statements, emails, even grocery receipts where you paid for household expenses. The financial abuse is clear. I smiled, sinking deeper into my comfortable chair. What else? Burke filed a motion claiming you're not mentally competent to make these decisions. They're pushing for a psychological evaluation. That wiped the smile right off my face. So they're still trying to have me declared incompetent. It's a Hail Mary, Michael said. They know they're losing, so they're throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks. He hesitated. Maggie, there's more. They've been asking questions about Robert's insurance policy, specifically whether you were aware of all the beneficiaries. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean, all the beneficiaries? I'm not certain yet, he admitted. Burke hinted there might be irregularities in how the payout was distributed. I'm digging into it. After we hung up, I sat staring out at Riverside Park, unease settling in my stomach like a cold stone. Robert had always handled our insurance and investments. I trusted him completely, signing whatever forms he put in front of me. What if Jacob knew something I didn't? That afternoon I drove to Lily's school. I parked across the street, watching until she wandered toward the playground after dismissal. She looked smaller than I remembered and sadder too. I stepped out and called her name. The moment she saw me, her face lit up like Christmas morning. She ran straight into my arms, hugging me so hard she nearly knocked me over. Grandma, I missed you so much. Why did you leave? My heart cracked a little. I had to, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and other grown-ups have to protect themselves. Are you coming home? She asked, her voice trembling. I can't, Lily. But maybe you could come visit me sometime. My new apartment has a pool. Her eyes widened. Really? Really? Ask your parents if you can come this weekend. I hugged her tight. I love you, baby girl. Don't ever forget that. As I drove away, I saw Amanda's car pulling into the school parking lot. She must have spotted me with Lily because my phone lit up immediately with her number. I ignored it. Friday morning came too fast. The psychological evaluation was set for 9 a.m. at Dr. Patricia Coleman's office. I arrived early, dressed in my best navy suit and pearl earrings, the very picture of a sharp, put-together woman. Dr. Coleman was younger than I expected, maybe mid-40s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Mrs. Reynolds, I want you to know this evaluation was requested by your son's attorney. But I work independently. I'm here to assess your mental state, not to take sides. I appreciate that, Dr. Coleman, I said. For 2 hours she put me through memory tests, cognitive puzzles and questions about my recent choices. And every answer I gave felt like one more nail in the coffin of Jacob and Amanda's twisted scheme. I answered every question honestly, explaining the reasoning behind each financial step I'd taken. You seem to have very clear recall of events and strong analytical skills, Dr. Coleman remarked. Can you tell me about your relationship with your son and daughter-in-law? I chose my words carefully. They're under a lot of financial pressure and I believe they started to see me as their solution, not as a person with my own needs and rights. Do you think some people might consider your recent actions extreme? She asked. I met her eyes without flinching. Dr. Coleman, if someone was plotting to steal your life savings and have you locked away against your will, what would you consider an appropriate response? She made a note, her expression thoughtful. Point taken. That evening Michael called with an update. The evaluation went well. She's recommending no conservatorship. He hesitated. But Maggie, we've got a problem. I finally learned what Burke was hinting at. My stomach dropped. Tell me. Robert had a second life insurance policy. A big one. $2 million purchased 5 years before he died. You weren't the only beneficiary. The room tilted under me. Who else? Someone named Linda Hayes, Michael said. Ring any bells? The name slammed into me like a physical blow. Linda Hayes, formerly Linda Morrison, Robert's secretary at the engineering firm where he'd worked for 15 years. The pretty blonde who always hovered too close at company picnics. He got half the money, Maggie. $1 million. The insurance company cut 2 checks. One to you, one to her. I collapsed into my chair, my mind reeling. But I only received $500,000 from his life insurance. That's what Burke is interested in. If Robert left Linda $1 million and you were supposed to get $1 million, where's your other $500,000? The pieces slid together with horrible clarity. Jacob had managed all of Robert's insurance paperwork after the funeral. He told me the policy was only worth $500,000 after taxes and fees. I'd been so grief-stricken I believed him. My own son had stolen $500,000 from me. It looks that way, Michael said quietly. And if he's been sitting on that while trying to have you declared incompetent, it shows a pattern of financial manipulation that goes back years. I closed my eyes, feeling the crushing weight of betrayal. My husband had cheated on me both emotionally and financially. My son had been stealing from me long before he tried to commit me. The two men I had trusted most in this world had betrayed me. But instead of despair, something else surged through me, pure crystalline rage. Michael, I said softly, I want to destroy him. I spent the weekend planning my next move. If Jacob thought he could manipulate me with hidden truths about Robert's affairs, he was about to learn two could play that game. Monday morning I dialed Linda Hayes. The internet told me she was remarried now, living in suburban Atlanta with her orthodontist husband and two teenage daughters. The phone rang 4 times before a woman finally answered. Oh, Linda, this is Margaret Reynolds, Robert's wife. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally she stammered, oh my God, Margaret. I wasn't expecting. How did you get this number? I'm very resourceful when I need to be, I replied pleasantly, keeping my tone conversational. I think we need to talk about Robert's insurance policy. I don't know what you mean, she faltered. Honey, I know about the $2 million policy. I know you received half of it. What I'd like to know is what you know about my half. There was another long pause. Then Linda whispered, your son told me you'd already gotten your portion. My son told you? I asked, my voice tightening. When exactly did you speak to him? He called me after Robert died, Linda admitted, to let me know about the funeral arrangements and to discuss the insurance situation. My pulse quickened. And what did he say about that situation? He told me you were overwhelmed with grief, that he was handling your finances for the time being. He said the insurance company had made a mistake, sent 2 checks when there should have been just one. He told me to cash mine and not to worry about it. The audacity nearly stole my breath. Jacob hadn't just taken my money, he'd convinced Robert's mistress to play along. Linda, I said carefully, that check you received wasn't yours alone. It was supposed to be split. Robert left us each $500,000, not $1 million apiece. That's not what Jacob told me, she stammered. He showed me paperwork. Forged paperwork, most likely. I let that sink in. Linda, I think we've both been played by my son. The real question is, what are we going to do about it? Tuesday morning, I was waiting in the lobby of Jacob's office when he walked in. The moment he spotted me on the couch, his face drained of color. Mom, what are you doing here? Howdy. Lovely morning, isn't it? I rose, smoothing my skirt. I thought we could have lunch. There's so much to catch up on. He darted a nervous glance around, aware of his co-workers' curious stares. I'm really busy today. Oh, I insist, I said sweetly. I even made a reservation at Giovanni's. You remember Giovanni's, don't you? The place you took me to celebrate your promotion last year? His jaw tightened, but at last he nodded. Fine. But I can't stay long. Giovanni's was bustling with the lunch crowd, perfect camouflage for what I had planned. We ordered, chatted idly about Lily, and I waited until his guard was down. Then I leaned back, smiled warmly, and dropped the bomb. I had the most fascinating conversation with Linda Hayes yesterday. His fork slipped from his hand, clattering against the plate. His face cycled through shades of red, then pale gray. All around us, people carried on with their meals, oblivious, while my son's lies began to unravel. I don't know what Linda told you, he muttered at last. She told me you convinced her the insurance company made a mistake. That she was entitled to a full $1 million, instead of the $500,000 Robert had actually intended. I took a slow sip of iced tea, savoring the moment. Imagine my surprise when I realized you'd stolen $500,000 from me, just to hide your father's affair. I was protecting you, Jacob blurted, then lowered his voice when heads turned toward us. You were devastated after Dad died. Finding out about Linda would have shattered you completely. So you decided to profit off my ignorance instead, I shot back. It wasn't like that, he protested. I used the money to pay off our house to secure Lily's future. You would have just put it in savings anyway. I laughed, the sound sharp as glass. You stole $500,000 from your grieving mother and convinced yourself it was for my own good. The arrogance is breathtaking. Jacob leaned forward across the table, desperation in his eyes. Mom, please. Let me explain everything. Dad left Linda that money because she was pregnant. The world tilted. What? Linda was pregnant with Dad's baby, he said, voice low. She lost it in the 4th month, but Dad had already changed the beneficiary to provide for the child. When she miscarried, he planned to change it back. But then he had the heart attack. I sat frozen, staring at him, trying to process this new, gut-wrenching layer of betrayal. Robert hadn't just had an affair, he'd gotten his mistress pregnant. And Jacob had known the whole time. How long have you known? I demanded. Linda called me right after the funeral, he admitted. She was a wreck, grieving Dad and reeling from the miscarriage. She showed me medical records, the insurance paperwork. Everything. I felt my stomach turn. And instead of telling me the truth, you decided to steal from both of us. I convinced her she deserved the full $1 million after what she'd been through, he said, voice shaking. And I used your half to pay off our debts so you wouldn't have to worry about us struggling while you were grieving. The twisted logic was almost impressive. He'd stolen from me to cover his bills and managed to paint it as charity. Just then Jacob's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and went even paler. It's Amanda. She says Michael Turner is at the house, with papers. I smiled, slow and deliberate. That'll be the criminal fraud charges. I filed them this morning. Criminal charges? Jacob whispered. Insurance fraud. Elder abuse. Theft by deception, I listed calm as could be. Michael was thorough. You see, Jacob, forging documents and lying to insurance companies about beneficiaries? That's a felony. Stealing from your elderly mother? That's elder abuse. And doing it all while planning to have her declared incompetent? That's premeditation. His hands trembled. Mom, please. Think about Lily. If I go to jail. You should have thought about Lily before you chose to become a criminal. I stood, leaving money on the table for my meal. But don't worry about her. She'll be well taken care of. In fact, she's getting more than originally planned. What do you mean? I leaned close, lowering my voice to a whisper. Linda's giving me back what's rightfully mine. Every penny. Turns out she's not as comfortable with theft as you are. Jacob's face crumpled. You can't do this to me. I'm your son. You're right, I said softly. You're my son. And that makes this so much worse. I walked out of the restaurant, calm and steady, slid behind the wheel of my car and headed off. One more stop to make. The next morning I sat in my apartment, coffee in hand, watching the news coverage of Jacob's arrest. Local insurance agent charged with elder abuse and fraud, the anchor announced. Jacob Reynolds allegedly stole over $500,000 from his mother's insurance settlement while planning to have her declared mentally incompetent. My phone buzzed nonstop all morning. Reporters, neighbors, old friends who had seen the broadcast. I ignored every call except one. Grandma. Lily's small, scared voice came through the line. Mommy's crying and she won't tell me why Daddy isn't coming home. My heart cracked. I'll be right there, sweetheart. I found her at a friend's house, where Amanda had dropped her before rushing to the jail. My sweet 8-year-old looked lost and confused, clutching her stuffed rabbit like it was the only thing holding her together. Are you in trouble too, Grandma? She asked softly. I knelt down, took her small hands in mine. Oh baby. I'm not in trouble. Sometimes grown-ups make very bad choices and then they have to face the consequences. Is Daddy a bad person? She whispered. Your daddy isn't bad, I said gently. But he did bad things and now he has to make them right. Over the next few hours I explained things in the simplest way I could. That people who love each other should be honest and kind. That taking what doesn't belong to you is wrong no matter the excuse. And that sometimes, protecting someone means making very, very hard choices. Are you still mad at Daddy? Lily asked me one quiet afternoon. I thought carefully before answering. I'm disappointed in your daddy, sweetheart. I'm sad that he hurt me. But I'll always love him, because he gave me you. That evening Amanda came to pick her up. She looked worn out, her eyes swollen from crying. The lawyers say Jacob might get 5 years if he's convicted. That's for the judge to decide now, I said calmly. Margaret, please. I know we hurt you. But Jacob's scared, he's confused. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive him? I looked at this woman. Someone who had smiled at me while plotting to strip away my independence and dignity. A year ago I might have folded under the guilt she was trying to push on me. Not anymore. Amanda, I forgave Jacob the moment I filed those charges. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing or ignoring consequences. It means I won't let his choices poison my future. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you feel like it, share your story in the comments.